welcome back to Success Mashup Radio. And I've got Cindy Laws, Senior Vice President of Business Development for Concierge Care Advisors in Seattle. And she'll explain a little bit exactly what she does with the business. But she's got experience with a ton of background with public affairs, public policy and development stretching all the way back to the 1980s. She's worked for the U.S. Senate, U.S. Congress. She combines experience with that, the Washington State Legislature, nonprofit sector and statewide long-term care associations, and concierge care advisors served as a model for you, I believe,
for the state legislature.
For the state legislature. Okay, for best practices. And I'm going to have you explain that a little bit more. And really, because you helped put this together, one of the first in the nation regulation, basically, for referral agencies, right?
It is. It's the very first in the nation. It's amazing. But the senior industry, there's still so much growth going on. 10,000 baby boomers turn 65 years old every single day. 10,000 a day. And
wow.
So the whole industry, everything that touches seniors is completely changing. The Senior Placement Referral Agency, nationwide, we're the only state that has any legislation at all that regulates placement referral agencies. And as they have grown, the need to have some controls about what they do and how they operate was very important. So I worked with the state attorney general, the deputy state attorney general. We developed the basic language, and then we sought out State Representative Jim Moeller, who's the Speaker Pro Tem, who adopted the bill as his own, shepherded it through, and in a single session, we got that passed. The governor signed it in May 2011, and we received tremendous help from the State Long-Term Care Ombudsman, ARP, and many other senior advocacy groups.
Wow.
And concierge care advisors came to us at that time when I was helping develop this bill, came to us and wanted the legislation to be much stronger. They wanted a lot more regulation on these agencies. And that's how this company ended up being used as the best practices model, because they were already doing everything that the bill sought out. We were doing criminal background checks of all the people that work in the industry. We provided incredible disclosure to seniors and their families who would use the services. Most important, we did very, very rigorous background checks on all of the long-term care places that we work with. Our standards are much higher than that of the state. And so we look a lot harder to protect the interests of the seniors.
Wow. Yeah. 5 or 6 years ago, my grandfather passed away, and he was going strong. At 93, he was golfing 3 times a week. And then, about at 93 years old, in about a year or so, he started going downhill pretty fast. And he went into kind of a residential senior care type of place.
Correct.
Then he needed to go to the next level. And that's where my parents were lost. They didn't really know where to go. And it came on pretty fast. And long story short is they ended up choosing a place that, there was no horror story or anything like that. It wasn't that bad, but it just wasn't a good experience for him or for my parents. And now I drive by and the house that he was at is up for sale. And I could tell then, it was a younger couple that looked like, oh, this is a great business I can get into. Let's start a senior care home. They're looking maybe at the numbers, thinking this can't be that difficult. It's passive income. And it's just like, I wish he had you guys then.
Exactly. There are almost 3,000 adult family homes in the state of Washington. There's 570 and climbing assisted living communities, and there are more than 250 nursing homes. And I say the nursing homes last because it's very few people really need to go to nursing homes. It's an option that's more of a temporary option now. When you are recovering from something like a hip replacement surgery. Most people do need to, it is important, though, to work with a professional, senior placement professional, like concierge care advisors, to make sure that you're getting the type of a residential community that is a fit for your loved one. You want to make sure that it fits their personality, it fits your needs as the relative, the adult son and daughter, making sure that it fits the financial requirements. Most important, that it fits their social and health needs. And that can vary tremendously, both from property to property, as well as the needs of the individual senior.
Gotcha. Very right. Because it's funny because a lot of people, I think, they just think nursing home, and I think a lot of people don't know the difference.
There is a tremendous difference. Again, nursing homes are the place you need to go to when you need 24-hour nursing care, when you can't get out of bed, when you cannot, you're almost completely incapacitated. That's what a nursing home is for. Sometimes you'll visit a place, and because people have just not done the research, they just go to a nursing home because it's what they knew 30 years ago. But again, the industry's completely changed, and all these things that touch seniors. There are places called independent community or independent living and retirement living, which aren't regulated by the state, but they are for seniors. They are individual apartments or homes in a community that you own on your own. You can sell them, buy them, that type of thing. But there's not services around that. And then as the needs increase, there are communities where you have on site, there might be care professionals, but they're not that isn't a part of your cost of that. Some places you just are renting an apartment, but there's access to someone to check in on you, and it increases up from there. Assisted living communities, for example, can be what's called low acuity, where the people are very much on their own, on up to people that do need someone to help them with bathing and eating and that type of thing. As adult family homes are for a much higher level. And then there's all kinds of specialty care for people with dementia. For example, they have very high needs. You need to make sure that they're cared for appropriately so that they don't wander off, but they're also not left just alone to watch the TV. And you want to make sure, if you think about how the effort we put into our children and how hard we work to find the right school for our children, or the right preschool, the right sports, you want to kind of put that in reverse now with your parents, and you want to make sure that you are making sure that your parents equally have the right stimulation, that they have the right entertainment and activities, particularly if, like your grandfather, where he was very, very active until, towards the end. That's often common, that people are incredibly active. They're very social. And socialization itself is extraordinarily important to keep the brain active and to have people have that social interaction that they can get from a community.
Okay, so what are some of the biggest mistakes that some people make when it comes to trying to find the right home?
I think that one of the biggest mistakes that they make is the biggest mistake everybody makes is they simply don't plan. The failure to plan is absolutely the biggest mistake people make. All of a sudden, they're faced with they've been in denial about their parent aging. Everybody wants to stay in their own home, and there is a little bit of a tussle right now, because while everybody wants to stay in their own home as long as possible, the most accidents occur at a person's own home. Somebody gets a critical burn, leaving a tea kettle on the stove and it burns dry, and then they pick it up. Someone falls in their own home and they're injured. If you break your hip, the quality of life diminishes immediately, and your length of life goes way down as well. So that's the biggest mistake people make, is they just are in denial that their parents are aging. They don't have the conversation. But once they start moving, by trying to do the process themselves, again, they're overwhelmed. There are nearly 4,000 licensed long-term care communities in the state of Washington. And here in King County, 1/3 of those are in King County. And so you just become completely overwhelmed with where to start. So working with a professional, it's like if you're trying to rent a house or buy a house, you can look at the ads, and that will give you a sense on cost, perhaps, but it won't give you the full picture. You won't know the questions to ask.
Right.
In order to balance those care needs of what kind of things you are. And if you're entering a licensed care facility, it's state law that the senior must have a assessment of their medical needs, their medical and mental needs. And that will come up with what's called an ADL score, which means activities of daily living, which is how independent they are, and how that is balanced with the needs of the various communities or the abilities of the communities to meet those needs. Those are some of the challenges people can face when they're trying to do this on their own. It's completely overwhelming. And if the quickest thing people can do is they can come to our website, which is conciergecareadvisors.com, and concierge is CONCIERGE, careadvisors.com, and we can help immediately. There are so much resources we have on our website about what to look for, We have government resources, emergency resources, just basic background on everything from the difference between Medicaid and Medicare.
There's a ton of stuff on there. I was looking through there and I was like, man, I wish my dad would have had this resource when he was looking, 7 years ago.
I've been sending my mom to learn this, because I'm at the age now where my mom is still in denial. She's a very, very young 72 years old.
That was my next question.
Yeah. She's a very young 72 years old, and it's just impossible for me to imagine. I have this picture of my mom. She goes to jazzercise 5 days a week. She's got her shoulders and arms, rival Madonna's, who's 20 years younger than she is. But it's amazing how, if something was to happen, trying to go through the process right now of working with her about making sure that we've got a plan. I know, for example, how she wants the very end. That like most people, she doesn't want to be hooked up to some machine. I know that. But what about between here and there? That's the question we need to start thinking about. What about between here and there? What happens if her companion dies and she's down in California? How are we going to negotiate that with her? And trying to have that conversation with her so that me and my siblings won't be arguing about what's the right course of action. On our website, we have a whole bunch of documents, links to documents people want to think about. It's easy to think about your living will and those types of things. But really, do you have in plan a process about at what point do you make these decisions? At what point do you look at power of attorney? Power of attorney and durable power of attorney are very important things for adult children to have lined up with their parents. And there's a lot of different reasons about thinking who is going to be the spokesperson for your family when it comes to your family care. Siblings arguing often create unnecessary problems. If one sibling is close by in proximity to the parent and has been really aware of what is going on, and another sibling that's in another state is in complete denial and only sees the parent occasionally, and that parent, particularly if there's dementia involved, that parent may become quite animated and embracing during a visit. But then the sibling who's left behind here on a day-to-day basis is truly overwhelmed. You asked earlier about what were some of the biggest mistakes family makes. So often what they do, one of the biggest mistakes people make is they want to be the caregiver for their own parents. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like a great idea, but it's absolutely overwhelming. Caregiver stress is a cause of early death for the person giving the care, not for the person on the receiving end. So working with us to help line up what are your other options so that both the adult children have a high quality of life and then the quality of life for the senior is much, much better. And the family gets to be a strong family again. And that's very, very important. Our ultimate goal is the safety and security of seniors above all else.
Okay. We've got to wrap it up here in about a minute. But real quick, since we're in the holidays, tell me, do you have any what kind of gifts can people give their loved ones?
One of the greatest things you could do as a family is go Google what were the top. Actually, go to our website, Concierge Care Advisors. Look for gift ideas on our blog, and you will see a list of songs, the top 10 songs by decade. Go download those songs, put them on a CD. Don't put them on a little iPad player because your senior probably can't figure it out.
Yeah.
But put it on a CD or an old-fashioned cassette tape. Get a little boom box. You could find them at Goodwill for $5. Get a little boom box and give it to your family, or record your kids reading stories, laughing. They love it. It's wonderful.
Memories. Yeah. Memories. It brings back memories. Their favorite songs bring back memories. Great. Okay. Well, I appreciate it, Cindy. Awesome stuff. Once again, go check out her website. We'll have a recorded version of this on YouTube. You can click on that and check it out. And we will see you next week on Success Mashup Radio.